the only true satisfaction is within your own self. And so now that you understand that, I recommend that you work towards building that. And how do you do that? Well, just basically by practicing feeling love more deeply within yourself for absolutely no reason. Appreciating yourself as this conscious entity that you are. Appreciate yourself as the universe, as God, as consciousness, as infinity, as absolute love, as absolute truth. Appreciate, just by sitting in an empty room, you should be able to deeply appreciate the very fabric of existence itself. That's what spirituality is really about. That then creates the kernel of the happiness in your life around which everything else can be, additions built on top. And if you don't have that kernel, fundamentally, you will never be satisfied. No amount of houses, cars, sex, or children will correct for that. No amount of good deeds will correct for that. Another way, there's a lot of creative ways you can come up with to practice this. For example, you could go do a good deed for somebody without them knowing about it in anonymity, and then just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody about it. So normally, if we donate some money or we do something nice for somebody else, we want the praise from talking about it. We'll talk to our friends, we'll tell our spouse that we did this nice thing, and then she'll give us some credit for it and tell us how good we are, and then that'll make us feel happy. No, cut that shit out. Do something good for somebody, and then be the only person in the universe that knows that you did that good thing. So like maybe, you want to take $500, put it in an envelope, go stick that envelope into your, somebody in your neighborhood block, stick it in their mailbox. And it's an unmarked envelope. You don't put your name on it or anything. And then you don't tell anybody about it. And then when you come back home the next day, when you're sitting there just kind of reflecting on your life, you can just feel good and just bask in the fact that you did that because you were good. You are good. That was an act of your own universal goodness. And derive more pleasure and satisfaction from basking in your own goodness, contemplating your own goodness, than you ever would from anybody praising you. And realize that you realizing your own innate goodness is worth infinitely more than your spouse or your wife or your friends telling you how good you are for doing that thing. Because when they tell you how good you are, they're coming at it from a very materialistic perspective. See, they don't have a deep spiritual connection to the actual goodness of the universe and the goodness within you that is driving you to love and to act in the world. Only you can appreciate that within yourself. The kind of praise they give you will be superficial praise. You need to realize. And it will be highly dependent upon them and their judgments of you. Because as soon as you do something that they disagree with, they will stop praising you. In fact, you see, maybe you even go and, put this envelope of $500 into your neighbor's mailbox. And then you tell your mom about it, and then she might even chastise you. She might say, "Oh, but you don't have enough money. You needed that money, for yourself. Or why didn't you give that money to your brother? He's closer to you than you're some random neighbor. Why are you being so selfish and foolish?" She might actually tell you that. And then this might kind of make you feel bad because you called her to tell her about something good you did, and you expected her to give you some praise for it, and then she didn't even give you the praise for it. She criticized you for it. And then you're going to feel bad. Whereas if you didn't tell her and you just bask in your own goodness, because you know that what you did is good, you know that what you did is selfless, even though others may not know it. So why do you need them to acknowledge you? Just cut that cord, cut that umbilical cord. Stop needing other people to acknowledge your own inner goodness, your love, your, your, selflessness, your consciousness, your intelligence. Your consciousness, your selflessness, your consciousness, your love, your selflessness, your consciousness, your consciousness, your consciousness, your love, your selflessness, your consciousness, your consciousness, your love, your selflessness, 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 your consciousness, your love, your selflessn It should be enough for you to recognize these things simply within yourself, and that's it. And then actually, there's a trick here because this is actually harder to do than you would think, because first of all, it requires self-reflection. Second of all, it requires slowing your life down such that you actually have time for solitude. Most people don't. Most people don't have time to even contemplate the good things they've done this week because they're too busy chasing the next good thing. They can't even appreciate themselves. They aren't even grateful to themselves. That's how absurd this situation is. If you can't be grateful to yourself for the good things you do, how can you expect others to do so for you? You see, you yourself don't even recognize your own goodness, innate goodness. And then you get bitter at others for not doing it. And of course, others don't recognize it in themselves either, because to recognize one's own innate goodness, this takes a high level of consciousness and maturity. Most people feel so unlovable, so broken, so undeserving, so guilty that they don't even allow themselves to give themselves praise. Because the survival conditions they were raised in were so severe that that was considered a luxury. So a lot of people motivate themselves by browbeating themselves, by telling them how shitty they are, how bad they are. And then this becomes an entire attitude and way of life. You feel bad about yourself, even though you do good things, but it's never enough. So imagine the following ideal. Imagine reaching a state of consciousness and spiritual development such that you're able to just sit in a room and just be fully satisfied with just sitting in a room without anything, without having to do anything. It's not even about that you placed an envelope with $500 into somebody's mailbox. Even that is bullshit compared to this ultimate level that I'm trying to communicate to you, where literally just you sitting alone in a room and looking at the room, you are so in love and in awe by the existence of the room, by the physical, just the raw physical fabric of reality itself. You are so appreciative of this and existence itself that in and of itself is enough to satisfy you. And then the more you contemplate and bask in that present moment, in the absolute truth and absolute love that moment is, the more conscious you become of the spiritual nature of that present moment, of that room, just the deeper and deeper sense of bliss you experience. And then you bliss out on literally just existence itself. And that becomes the best part of your day.